Most likely to run for president.
A man of the people. Well, they'd have to be American too, right?
Yep.
So it couldn't be Ty. It couldn't
Tyler
be
for president
Ty.
would be
Tyler for
unhinged.
president would be
I'd
actually
vote for him.
hilarious.
You would because you just want to see what happened.
Hey, we're back. We are in our
Back
home,
from New York. Yeah.
home settings. Kat has made the trek home. I'm back in
Right.
Florida. That was a great trip. We had so much fun.
So much fun. I'm so sad that you missed the biggest game of the week. You left right before the Madison Square Garden showdown.
Showdown. I know. There was so much. It's so funny because I left the trip and then I was like invested in how the Sharks were doing the rest of the road trip. And I was checking their scores as if I was checking somebody like my husband's scores.
Oh my God.
And I was texting you like, this game, and I'm like, I don't know if you're actually watching.
I was watching. I
and
was
she
like
was watching, guys.
tuned in. It was so I've never screamed that. I think the last time I screamed that loud at a game was when the Canadians clinched into the
Yeah,
Stanley Cup, and you and I were like next to each other, screaming our
yeah.
faces off. So I was freaking out. It was also really nice too because Will Smith's whole family was there, and then some. He like
Yeah.
travels deep apparently.
I love that.
And his mom is just so much fun. So she was kind of like you, like a team mom, and getting all her people
I
together.
love it.
So they got to watch that OT goal, and afterwards, I took a picture of the whole family together, and it's like Will with like 100 people behind him, and he was just the star of the
I
show
love
at
it.
MSG. So it was
Well, how incredible! Like,
right?
just it's the whole thing. Being back in New York, it just gives you all the feels. And then to end, the trip like that. Well, I guess you guys went to New Jersey and did all that and got to see your people there.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm back in the. I felt like I had to take like a long rest this weekend to catch up from a busy week. But back in the swing of things, getting Jeff's on a nice homestand here this week. We have our Halloween party on Wednesday.
Ooh.
So trying to get my ducks in a row for that.
Yeah, if we had more time to chat today, I was gonna try and clip all of the hockey Halloween costumes so we could go over that, but we can do that next week.
Yeah, let's do a
After
full
you guys'
recap after, and it will be after actual Halloween. So I think a lot's going to come out this week.
True.
So stay tuned for that. So we have our most in-depth interview this week with Alec Martinez. Kat has known him for many years. It was my first time meeting him. So many layers to him. It's such an interesting conversation with really his whole story and kind of where he's at post hockey now, going, kind of dabbling in his broadcasting, era and entering and being full time dad mode. So that's up next with Alec Martinez.
As hockey fans, you know him because he's won not one, not two, but 3 Stanley Cups. But you wouldn't know that if you ran into him on the street because he would never brag about anything. Sometimes I refer to him as more of a Martha Stewart than a hockey player. And now
Is that good?
It's
it
great.
is.
It's great.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
welcome Alec Martinez now in his
Yeah.
broadcasting and dad era.
Yeah, it's things are very different than 6 months ago. I mean, it's been kind of a weird transition, I think, for as for anyone that's retired. But good thing is I got two little things to keep me busy. That's not to say I haven't had like, ups and downs and good days and bad, but um, yeah, I've got a lot going on. I've kind of have a plan set forth. I knew this day was
Mhm.
coming for, a couple, well, a loose plan. I mean, it seems like everything nowadays is written in pencil.
Yeah.
You plan on you. I mean, if my life is indicative of anything, the last 2, 3 years, then you can make plans and then they never come to fruition and it just blows up in your face. Sometimes in a good way, sometimes in a bad. Um, but yeah, it's just been a pretty wild 6 months. Moved a lot, started some new things, trying some new things. So yeah.
I mean, it's nice to see you back in LA right now. I recognize that room.
Yeah, yeah, you do. Yeah, we've had some good times up on this roof deck, but But yeah,
I
it's good to be back.
Yep.
in prepping for this, obviously, Kat, for since we started this podcast last year, you have always been on a short list of interviews. Kat has always been like, this guy's so interesting. There's so much to talk about. There's so much more than just the amazing hockey moments. So here we are. I'm very excited just to learn a little bit more about your story, and we have some fun things we want to talk about. But just in the review, as you're a Michigan boy, so things started clicking with me of the connections and how many people we probably have in common. But you're from
Yeah.
Rochester Hills. My husband's from Farmington Hills. You guys are defensemen. You went to Miami of Ohio. So my first off is like, do you know Ryan Jones?
I do. Yeah, I played with him for 3 years. He was a year older than me.
Jonesy was like the guy who took Jeff in when Jeff entered the league in Edmonton, and Jamie and
yeah.
Ryan took care of Jeff like, Kat's children, that she
Yeah,
has taken
yeah,
care of.
yeah. I've heard about that. Yeah.
We're both in our parenting era, Alex. It's pretty funny.
Yes. Yeah. It's a real doozy sometimes.
Yeah, all that to say is all the people that I think we have in common, and then also somewhat outside of hockey through your wife is Victoria Illich. Vic, if you're listening, I know she's listening. She's a big fan of the podcast and of you and of us. So she's listening. It's just like everybody, the common factor is, oh my gosh, they're just the best. The Martinezes are just the best. And it's beyond hockey. So
I've never heard that before. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I need to come on this podcast more often.
Yeah, here we are. This is what Never
Yeah.
Offside is. We are here
Yeah.
to shine the light on everything and all good things about
Love it.
more than the player. So, but I do think we need to go back a little bit into how you got to where you ultimately are now, but we'll get there. And it starts with, you can start where you want to start, but ultimately the LA Kings part of the journey is where we want to begin. And I got chills watching the moments that, are forever etched into your soul, probably in an incredible way.
That's pretty open-ended. I could start in a lot of places.
I wanted
but
to know where you were going to go.
I don't even
Yeah,
know where
yeah.
we begin. I think that's
All
like
right,
the whole
well,
point.
it all started at Crittenton Hospital in Rochester Hills, Michigan. No, I'm kidding. No, it was, yeah, I guess just familiar upbringing as your husband grew up in Metro Detroit, grew up around hockey, grew up around a really, really big dynasty in the Red Wings. So, obviously hockey was a big part of the community. They did a really good job. And I'm not just saying this because Vic is probably watching, but Mr. Illich I've said this before, but I grew up playing in the Little Caesars Hockey League, obviously the owner of the Red Wings, but he put so much what I would imagine money, but time, effort, and into the community and youth hockey. So, if you were, no matter what level, if you played hockey or around a rink or something like that, you were touched by his generosity, to the community in Detroit. So, very appreciative of that. But yeah, just grew up playing there, and then worked my way up. Went to Miami for a few years. Was drafted by LA, and played in the minors for a bit, and then finally stuck here. Had some success with the team couple times. One of which was with Kat's husband. Great dude. I'm kind of hoping. Is he on the road right now?
No, he's at the rink, but he'll probably pop in.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'd like to see that guy. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, just I can get into any kind of detail you want, but you touched on those goals. It's funny, like I was asked about this just the other day, and I'm reminded of that goal about once a year because people tag me on Twitter, on the anniversary. But this sounds like a line, but I genuinely just I don't really think about it that much.
Oh, I was
I
wondering
I
if you replayed it every once in a while.
no, no, just to try to help remind myself that I was maybe I was successful at some point in my life.
Yeah, play it for the kids every once in a
Yeah,
while. I don't know.
yeah, maybe that's something, like they obviously don't care at their age now, but no, I genuinely don't think about it that much. I think, I've reflected a little bit just in retirement. Um, there's moments where I guess it crosses my mind, but it's usually because it's triggered by someone else saying something or I see something or, playoff time, I think about it every once in a while because it's usually on like some of the advertisements or the commercials and things like that. So, um, but yeah, I don't know that we can get into the weeds of it later, but I mean, I'm obviously very grateful of my career and all that, and I'm very happy with what I accomplished. But this sounds so corny and such a like turd thing to say, but like I genuinely, I'm very proud of those three cups. But I'm more proud of other things that happened in my career, and um, once I got to be an older guy and it was far more rewarding and in a very different way to try to give back to the game because I was so lucky to learn from so many good guys. Kat knows most of them personally.
Mhm.
You know who I'm going to say. I'm
Oh yeah.
going to talk about Greener. I'm going to talk about Stoli. I'm going to talk about Brownie, and I'm going to talk about all those guys. So it was kind of a cool opportunity towards like the latter half of my career, maybe the last 5 or 6 years or so, that I could try to give back a little bit. And honestly, that's what I think about the most because I still have those relationships. Like Ty and I haven't played together for how long, but I talk to Ty all the time,
Yeah.
and so like I guess I'm reminded more of like those friendships and those relationships than I am three games or one goal. Like I don't think about the hockey very much, if that makes sense.
Well, one of those relationships got you married. So can you explain that?
Yeah. Yeah, met the old fashioned way. Yeah, so my wife was a third grade teacher, and she taught Dustin Brown's second oldest in third grade. And then after school, obviously, with the Browns having four kids and Nicole having to run around all over the place, they needed a little bit of help. So Emily would come over and tutor the other kids. So she had, a relationship with the kids. And I believe, I'm sure Nicole will correct me on this as soon as it airs if I'm wrong, because that's the kind of person
Oh
she
yeah.
is. But I think Nicole was Emily's room mom too when Mason was in their class. But anyways, I was single and Emily was over tutoring one of the kids, and so Nicole said, like, "Hey, Miss Brown, are you seeing anyone?" And she's like, "Oh, I think the first time she was, and then maybe like a few months later she wasn't." And all Nicole had to say was, "Well, Dustin has his teammate and he's not a douche." And that was it. And I was like,
That's
I
what
found
Nicole
out,
said.
yeah. And so like on our first date, like Emily and I, we kind of hit it off. We went to lunch, like I think it was her last day of school. And we were there for like 4 hours just chatting. And I found out that that's what Nicole had said. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, that's it?
Hey,
Like,
it
of
worked.
how long? Like, I've known you for a decade. Like, I've taken your kids to hockey. I visited you in your off-season home, and all you have to say is that I'm not a douche. Like, that's it. It's like, I I mean, you
Uh,
could pump my tire a little bit more. I mean, I had my tire pumped more just in this podcast that we've been on in 15 minutes than I was with Nicole Brown. And it's like, well, how hard were you really trying to set us up? But funny part was is that she always said that if it indeed, did work out and we got married, that she got a speech at the wedding. And I was deathly afraid of that, but I agreed to it anyway because there's no negotiating with Nicole Brown. It's just whatever she wants to do.
Oh yeah.
And but she ended up giving the speech and it was awesome. It was really fun.
I think I filmed the entire thing. Like I was just like
Yeah.
filming and crying, laughing the entire because that was her moment. It was.
Yeah. And it was funny too because it was like Nicole doesn't get nervous about much, but you could tell like there's a little bit where um yeah, she didn't want to mess it up, but she didn't. So,
No.
and even if she did, who cares?
It was It was just so great to watch that. And again, it was like such a full circle moment that you got married because of Dustin and Nicole Brown. So that
Yeah.
was
Yeah,
fun.
it's pretty funny, but um glad it worked out.
I love it. Okay, so going back to the three different teams that you won with all
Mhm.
these players that you've played with, can you tell us just the different vibes of each team? So 2012, 2014, 2023. What were the different vibes?
And 2023 is with Vegas,
Yes.
and the other two are with LA.
Mhm. Um I would say the two Kings teams had similar vibes, because it was a lot of the same guys. Um, Obviously, the second time in 14, we had this influx of youth and, a lot of energy, talent. Obviously, your husband being one of those. That 70s line was pretty awesome. Um, but I don't know, they were very different just on a personal level too, because of where I was at in my life and my career.
Mhm.
So, I know that's not necessarily talking about the team, but like, first I was a 24-year-old kid, young kid playing a limited role, and I'm just like, you're just kind of in the moment. You're a young kid. You're like, I'm just happy to be here. Like, you obviously want to win, but it's different. And then, later on, I think, when you win 2 out of 3 years and then you make it to the conference final, the year in between that, it's like that old adage and it's cliche, but you think it's going to happen every year and it just doesn't. And then all of a sudden I have 9 years where I'm I'm not there. I got close a couple times thanks to your husband. Well, was Jeff on that team in Montreal too that knocked
Mhm.
us out?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's how we
Yeah.
that's how this podcast
So
that's this
I gotta,
podcast.
That's
yeah,
that's
I
why
hope he
we're all
comes home.
here.
Yeah, I hope he comes home too. I got a bone to pick with both of them.
He just
No,
ran up for a nap, so he's
yeah,
safe.
oh, good for him. I miss those days.
Yeah.
Uh, but no, so it was just like it was different. And then I was an older guy, and I guess you kind of not appreciate it more, but you just have a little bit of a different perspective being older and having that drought of, and I also know like how lucky I am to have won, but I mean there's so many players that have come through the league that are far, far better than I am, and yet they never even were, got the opportunity to compete for one. So I know just how lucky I am to just have been drafted by the right team coincidentally, and then um, was able to compete for those. But uh, the I guess the one commonality is that all those teams that won were just so incredibly tight. And Kat, you can attest to that. Like both on and off the ice, I think there's a lot of different factors that one, we just all got along. I mean,
Mhm.
that's an obvious thing. But I think that there's something special. Like we all lived in, Hermosa or Manhattan, like the beach communities. We lived close to each other. I mean, I still do. I could throw a football out this window and hit Greener's house. And it's just like the whole thought that you could just hop on a beach cruiser and truthfully be at anyone's house in like 5, 10 minutes. Um, but yeah, they were all different, and each playoff run has a different story.
You won with Tyler in 2014 and then
Mhm.
you both got traded. What, like a
Yeah,
day apart?
yeah, a day apart. I was sitting there with Ty when he got the call from Rob Blake, and the phone, like you felt the phone vibrate on the table, and we both knew that we were probably getting moved. So it was like this phone vibrates, and there's that half a second. It's like, well, is it your phone or mine?
Oh.
And then I remember I brought a bag of clothes because I thought I was going to get dealt on that trip. But
Hmm.
then Ty didn't, but I had a friendly heads up that it was maybe going to happen. So then I rushed home to grab some clothes, but then I remember I offered Ty, I was like, "Do you want to just take my bag?
Oh.
Like we're relatively the
Of
same
course you
size. Like you
did.
can just like yeah, and you might have to wash the underwear a few times, the socks and underwear. Maybe run those through the wash a couple times before you throw those on, but I swear everything's clean, you know. But yeah, we
That's
were
so
we were
nice.
sitting right next to each other, and that was a weird moment. I mean, he ended up we were sitting at High Steakhouse at the bar in Winnipeg, and then he got traded, and I don't even know if he got his meal. No,
No,
it was like in between salad and dinner.
yes.
And then he went up, and then I called him. I was like, "Hey man, we hugged goodbye and all that." And I was like, "I'll get your meal." And I called him. I was like, "Hey, do you like your food's here? Do you want it?" And he's like, "Man, I'm already in the Uber to the airport." And I was like,
Oh,
"All right, well, I guess I'm eating for two tonight." But yeah, it's weird how it's like we both kind of knew that it was happening, but then when it does happen, like it happens so quickly, and that's like just kind of the crappy part of the game, right? It's like I'm sitting next to one of my best friends one moment, and then literally the next second he's not on the same team anymore. Like that kind of sucks, but that's, I mean, we
I'll,
know what we sign up for.
I'll never forget it. It literally was like the Kings, like, thank you, Tyler, like all the social. And then the next day it was like, thanks, Alec. Like it was just
Yeah,
like back to
yeah,
back social posts. And it
good
was,
thing you didn't give your bag away.
yeah, yeah. Seriously, I was traded. Yeah, I was traded the next morning. But the cool part was, I guess, is if our last game was that outdoor game,
yeah,
um, in Colorado, and I mean, Ty had a much better game than I did. He had a hat trick, so that was pretty sweet.
it
But
was a sick game though. It was
yeah,
a nice grand finale, I guess.
Nothing like
yeah, sure.
nothing like having a hat trick and then getting traded the
Yeah,
next
yeah.
day.
Seriously. Well, it clearly wasn't due to a lack of performance.
Yeah.
So but there was what? There was like six of us, I think, unloaded
Yeah,
that year.
I was
That's
telling Julie
crazy.
Yeah.
it was just like the Stanley Cup team, and then it just blew up in 2020, and then you know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
then why I alluded to the trades is because then you went to Vegas, and then a couple years later, Quickie got traded in that crazy trade to Columbus and
Yeah.
Vegas. When you've won every cup with Quickie. That's crazy.
Yeah. We, yeah, it's super funny. Like he and I will text each other every once in a while. We just kind of get a chuckle, about that. But it's funny. I was asked about this the other day too, in the same like kind of interview. And I don't know, there's like you talk about different vibes, and each run has a different story, and some of that's hockey related, some of that's, on from a personal standpoint. And it's like there's certain things like what's the movie line? It's like it's easy to get romantic about baseball or some
Hmm.
I can't, yeah.
Yeah.
And but like hockey's very much the same way where it's funny where I just mentioned it, like the trading thing. Like there's so much about hockey that sucks, like the business side of things, like that, um, moving around and have it, getting forced to move around, signing, like I don't want to like badmouth the game. It's like it's far more special than it is anything else. But there's certain things that happen that are just poetic, and the fact that I'm on probably the biggest rival for for LA,
Yep.
and then you have this guy Jonathan Quick who's like a future Hall of Famer, the all-time winningest American goalie, like Olympian. I mean, you go down the list. It's like we could talk, for hours about his accomplishments, and then all of a sudden I'm on like the rival within the same division, and Jonathan Quick, like his standing in the LA Kings, and now he's a Golden Knight. Like what happened here? And which I was obviously really pumped about, but yeah, but then we end up winning, and then honestly, one of the coolest moments of my career is when, after I hoisted it, I got to turn around and hand it to him. And that was like, it almost like brings tears to your eyes. Like it was such a cool personal moment for him and I, and like a bond that we'll forever, we'll forever share. And there's just something different, I would say, with like sometimes with defensemen and goalies, it's like you're kind of in the trenches together. It's like, you know, there's no disrespect to Ty, but like Jeff, like when we get scored on, it's like we're the ones that get blamed, right?
Hmm.
It's the defenseman and the goalie. So there's this other, kind of funny little bond there. So for me to be able to share that with him, and then like Quickie and I go way back. We were roommates together in the minors. Like
Oh, I
we
didn't know
basically
that.
spent our yeah. Oh yeah, I've had to pull Quickie, literally pull him out of bed multiple times so he would make the bus on time, or
Oh my god.
um a little side note, I remember when he got called up for the last time, Ron Hextall called. I'm dating myself here, but we we were playing in Winnipeg, which was the Manitoba Moose at the time, and this was before the Jets were there. But we were in the hotel, and we get a call on the actual hotel phone, and I was like, "Hello?" It's like, "Well, this is Ron Hextall. Is Jonathan there?" So, anyways, he was getting called up the next morning, and we must have set like every alarm on our phone, because Quickie kind of has a reputation if you dig a little deep and to sleeping in,
Oh my
and
God.
but we set like every alarm on our phone. We had wake up calls back when I don't even know if they still
Yeah.
do wake up
Yeah.
calls, but yeah, he had like a 6 a.m. flight, so we were gonna make sure he didn't miss that one. But
Oh.
That's
but
so
really,
funny.
really, really cool moment, and I mean, Jackie as well, like just an awesome family, just such a generous family, such a fun family to be around. And I think I think a lot of the people learned, like Quickie brought such a wealth of knowledge on the ice, but then also off the ice, and that extends to Jackie and the family, and creating a fun environment. Because truthfully, it's like you guys know how it is. You go to a city, and it's like these are your people. This is who you have, and I think that a lot of people were very impressed by Jackie and Jonathan, and how welcoming and how fun they were.
Oh yeah. That moment of you handing him the cup was just anyone who knows you guys, we were all bawling. I mean, like when you were just talking
Hmm.
about it, I got chills. So
Yeah.
I think Kat back then, like you sent it to me being like, this
oh yeah.
moment, like just,
Hmm.
anyways, I
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
realize how choked up I would be. Like, I'm sitting here with a little ball in my throat. I
Me
didn't,
too. I'm
like,
like
again,
crying
it
a
goes
little.
back to the people and will pump the tires or whatever it is, but it's everybody talked about you guys and have like had a little piece of your story. Just they get emotional about like your story that's entrenched with theirs, and you can tell just by the humility, and it's more than just the hockey. So anyways, I'm gonna digress a little bit to get this like little knot out of my throat. In amongst all the the different teams you played on, was there anybody that you ever played against that you hated that all of a sudden you were teammates with, like?
Yeah, I've had that a couple times. Um, Going back to like the rivalry between LA and Vegas, like that first year, I mean, I didn't like a single person on Vegas, and then all of a sudden I'm traded to that team, and it's like we had just lost to them. We got swept in the final their first year, that awesome run that they had, in their inaugural season. But there's a few that come to mind. I mean, Luch, never liked playing against him. But then I loved him as a teammate. I mean, Jonathan Marchessault, that guy just runs his mouth on the ice, and I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna like this guy. And he's the best dude ever, in the locker room. Um,
I love that.
It's how it
yeah,
always goes. Like, it's how it
yeah.
always goes.
Yeah, and there's like, there's bad apples anywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not just in hockey, but in life. Like if that's what I say, like if you look hard enough for an asshole, you can find one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're not hard to find. But I feel like that's one of the special things about hockey too, is that like truthfully, like there's not very many bad apples in the league, and when you have a good culture and a good locker room, anyone that is like that kind of finds, a good locker room finds a way to push people out like that,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's usually, if you don't like someone on the ice, it's, usually off the ice, and you run into it's like, the common, like we have something in common, just, and we never met each other,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like just with, I'm sure we have 1 degree of separation with multiple people, but you run into people at weddings, you run into, things like that, and so you're like, oh well, this guy's actually not that bad. I had fun with him at this wedding, or like, I he and I are buddies. We're going to dinner now. We used to hate each other on the ice, but yeah, that's a pretty, I would say, common occurrence.
literally started crying when you were telling the story, and now I'm like actually choked up. So yes, we're gonna do something with you that we could only do with you because you have 3 Stanley Cups.
Yeah, so we like to do a yearbook superlative this, and your go around is the Stanley Cup winning teammates edition. So we're going to ask you these
Okay.
questions, and you come up with the first guy from a winning team that we're going to fill in the blank.
Pressure's on.
The best dressed.
Probably Jarrett Stoll or William Carlson or Rob Scuderi.
That's a good one. Oh my god.
That one is in jest, but
I
he
love
knows
this.
that.
I love this because of all the years apart. We're really like you gotta. It's kind of mental
Oh,
gymnastics.
yeah, no, I know it is. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah,
Two
we used to
different
refer to
eras.
it as the Scuderi cut. Like he was the closest thing to like the 90s NBA draft suit, where you could almost fit like 2 people in it.
Yes.
But
That's funny.
so
Uh,
sorry, Scud, but
I love
yeah,
it.
he'll get a good chuckle.
Most popular.
Oh, Matt Green.
I think he might be a few of these, Alec. If you
Yeah,
want
yeah, you talk about someone that people just gravitate to. Like you could just sit there and like you just prod him with a few stories and it's like you could listen to that guy not because he's annoying or talks too much. Like he's just such a good storyteller. Like Kat, you could listen to that guy for hours.
oh my God, open a bottle of wine and I'm just,
Yeah.
I don't even know
Yeah,
how to say
you might
this.
you might need to open a case when he's around.
Yeah.
But
okay, the dumbest laugh.
oh, Drew Doughty.
Cat,
Like that's the easiest one you got. Kat, that was all you. I know that.
I
She
teed
teed
that
you
one
up.
up.
Yeah.
most likely to run a zoo.
Run a zoo? Oh, Alex Petrangelo. This guy, this guy,
Why?
he's like he can't. This guy can't. Like he'd be perfect to run a zoo because there'd be so much going on that this guy can't focus on something longer than like 2 seconds. And I think I saw him yesterday when I was working the game in Vegas. He popped up to the booth because his son was playing at the rink. But that I said this, I think that part of the reason why he was so good, and especially defensively, is because he was so hyper aware of everything going on around him because he couldn't focus on one guy for longer than like a second, right?
I like
And
that.
so like this guy, I mean, hands down, the guy's got a million kids, um, dogs. At one point he was talking about getting a llama.
So basically,
Oh my
he
God. So
does.
this question wasn't that
Yeah,
random.
it's actually like fitting figuratively for him or
Mhm.
hypothetically, whichever. But also like I think his dream is to actually move back to St. Louis and have like a small zoo or a farm. But
That's funny.
That's hilarious.
I don't think that they pulled the trigger on the llama. They live in Vegas, and I'm not sure. Like, do llamas do well in hot temperatures? I don't know. I
I
don't
don't
know enough
know.
about them. But
I,
camels do. Are they
yeah.
related?
Got it.
I
Well,
don't know.
now you and I are
Yeah.
going to text after this about llamas
Yeah,
because that's,
yeah, exactly. Hey, you told me to get weird with it,
I
so
did tell
this
you to
is
get
on
weird.
you. Yeah, this
Yeah.
is on you. Yeah,
We're getting there. We're
yeah,
going to
yeah.
the weird
Slowly.
zone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Best hair.
William Carlson. I mean, the guy did a Great Clips commercial. Like
Oh.
Oh,
he's
then
yeah, his flow's pretty iconic.
I won't even get into commercials because there's a commercial of a Greek restaurant in Vegas that always pops up in my feed, and it's Alec, and it's the funniest commercial I've ever. It pops up
Uh,
on my feed all the time, and it's Alec being like, "You want some great Greek food? Here it is."
yeah,
And
it's.
it's
I
like,
think I think my line was, if you're looking for some, what was it, like game day gusto?
yes,
Yeah, look no further. That
you
was
say,
hey, but hey, honestly, shout out Meraki. That place is unreal.
yeah.
That's
Well,
it's like it was like my favorite spot to eat in Vegas.
I
Um,
thank them too because that commercial just
it makes
graces
you
my
giggle.
feed all the
yeah.
time, and I love it.
Okay. So funny short story about that. It was I was like, when they came to me, I was like, I'm gonna catch so much flack. Like, I mean, if there's anything a locker room is good at, it's preying on other people's insecurities,
Yes.
right?
Hmm.
And when you put your neck out there, like you're obviously gonna get roasted, and we're not paid actors, like, and it's like it's local TV, like I thought that they did a really good job, but it's not like this is not Hollywood production, right? Um, And that's no disrespect at all, but I mean they did a really good job. But it's more on the acting than it is the production. But
Yes.
it was a perfect scenario for me because I was doing it with Zach Whitecloud, so I knew that if he did it, I could just ultimately deflect onto him and he would be the one that would take most of the flack. And I'm like, oh, this is perfect. And then when I showed up, he had to do like 80% of the work. I just sat there in the back and made fun of him behind camera when he would mess something up. I worked for 15 minutes. I think I said that line like 7, 8 times. I screwed it up too, but it was just like I was like, this couldn't be any better because I'm gonna be able to do this, and then he can take most of the
He
heat. So
can
it was
take
awesome. Thanks for bringing it up, Kat. There's certain things that you try to forget, but I guess the internet is forever.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
post it on our stories on our Instagram, so
Yeah,
catch that
we all
soon,
need to see
everyone.
it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Perfect.
back to the best smile.
Well, I'm going through. I'm like, who has their teeth? Who doesn't have their teeth? Who's got a flipper?
I could only think of
Uh,
toothless people on that Kings
Yeah,
group.
I know. Like, well, my first thing, I was like, well, Dowdy, because the front teeth. I was thinking like Jeff Carter. Um,
I mean, Drew, they made like one of those like things that you hold up and like have their smile as like a
That's funny.
yeah.
giveaway.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Remember that?
That is. Yeah, I completely forgot about that.
I think it's probably
Um,
him because like you recognize that smile even just from one of those things, right?
well, yeah, they did. Like, I was that was that after the first one or maybe the second one? I can't remember. But remember that group started doing that cartoon? And it was like
Oh,
a cartoon version of Dewey.
yes.
And like I mean, you immediately knew who it was, and it was probably because of that smile. So yeah, two answers there.
Funniest chirps.
Probably Jonathan Marchessault because he's got that French accent, and for whatever reason, like his broken English makes him funnier. It's like we talked about that a lot, where it's like if I walked in and said what Marchie said, it wouldn't be funny, like at all. Like people would look at me and be like, "What? You're a weirdo," you know?
Yeah.
That didn't land.
But just when someone says it with that accent and his broken English, like it's just automatically funny. But I mean, he would run his mouth a lot, and they were pretty good. I don't know if we had a whole lot of trash talkers really in LA. I mean, I guess Dustin Penner would probably run his mouth a little bit. He was pretty quick-witted, but um like even like I mean Greener is very quick-witted, but he didn't really say much out there.
Yeah, he didn't need
I
to.
mean he would when I mean Greener was a very intimidating factor otherwise. Like he didn't need to use his mouth to he's just he's a monster.
Yeah.
Who is most likely to write a book? I'm gonna vote you on this.
Yeah, I was just gonna say people would probably pick me.
Yeah,
Uh
I would definitely pick you, Alec.
yeah, maybe, but I don't even think, yeah, I don't even think that I could like formulate my thoughts well enough to write a book. And I feel like writing a book would be so hard and take so much time. But yeah, people would probably pick me. I don't know
Yeah.
if that makes me a nerd or not. Probably does, but whatever, I'll take it.
Well, fun
I
fact.
know who I am at this point.
I was telling Julie how you finished your college degree whilst playing in the NHL on the road, which was
That wasn't very much fun. Um, but that actually, you told me to do a little preparation, and that kind of blew the cover of one of my truth
Oh,
or two truths and a
Oh,
lie.
damn. Okay.
No, so I'm gonna have to think of something else now.
Okay.
That sucked. I remember I finished it in the hotel. I took my final exam in San Jose, and I it was like proctored, and they were like super super strict about obviously cheating. So I would have to like show my ID. I'd have to take my laptop and like turn it around, scan the room, show underneath my desk, and I remember I knew a lot or most of the guys knew that I was doing it. And so I was like, man, one of these guys, like
they're
I
gonna
must have
mess with
double
you.
checked the lock on my door like 100 times because like someone's gonna mess with me and they're gonna kick the door in, and then all of a sudden I'm gonna get an F on this final because if anyone else walked in the room, like it was an automatic zero. So yeah, that wasn't very much fun, but
You did
got
it.
it done.
I mean,
Yeah.
very impressive.
What did you major
Yeah.
in?
Accounting, really exciting stuff.
I
Yeah.
mean, again, more well-rounded here. Like, I didn't know we could add that to your resume. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, there's a difference between having the degree and then having to use it, and
Yeah.
I just hope that I never have to do that. People will be like, "Hey, do you want to be a CPA?" I'm like, "Absolutely not.
No.
I'd have to go back to school for a year. No thanks."
Yeah.
But
Still
yeah,
very impressive. Most likely to run for president.
a man of the people. Brownie's not outgoing enough. Trying to think of some of those guys. Well, they'd have to be American too, right?
Yep.
So it couldn't be Ty. It couldn't
Tyler
be
for president
Ty.
would be
Tyler for
unhinged.
president would be actually
I'd vote for him.
hilarious.
You would because you just want to see what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you think? What would Ty's like? What would his campaign like? What would be his big issues?
I don't think he has any issues. So I think he
Yeah.
would just be like, let's just have a good time, guys. Like,
Yeah, let's bring some Aperol spritzes to DC and
yeah.
let's have a party
Let's all
for
get
4 years.
along.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I mean, I guess if I'm going Americans, I'll go with the all-time winningest American. I'll go Quickie.
That's a good one.
But
Quickie
Oh,
for
gosh.
yeah,
president.
yeah,
I
yeah.
would love to live in a world where Jonathan Quick is
Oh,
president.
I'd
oh
love to
yeah.
live in the
I
world
mean,
where Jackie is the first,
First
lady.
lady.
yeah, First
Jackie.
lady. Are you kidding me? I was like, Air Force One would just be the ultimate party zone. Like they'd probably get rid of Air Force One and just drive via party bus everywhere. Like, what is it? The Beast? Like the limo would not. It would be a party. They would retrofit it to a party bus. Like
Oh
the
my
entire, yeah,
God.
his entire cabinet. Yeah, that would be.
His
They
his
probably wouldn't get much done, but man, would it be a great 4 years.
his
Well,
election song would just be Thunder and
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
oh,
Thunderstruck. Yeah.
oh, this is too good.
Uh,
Okay, well, is
yeah.
this going to give away the most fun at the 10-year reunion? Who would categorize that one?
yeah, who's the most fun at the 10-year reunion?
I mean, I think it goes back to who who everyone gravitates to, and it's Greener. I mean, we just had that. What was it? Not last summer, but the summer prior, and it's like people just huddle around Greener. That's usually where it's at.
In the pool, he was just like staked in the pool the entire time, and we were just
Yeah,
like
it's just,
around him.
yeah, exactly. I'm like, have you taken your bathing suit off this entire time? Like, were you even at dinner or were you still here? Like, but that's just who he is, right? Like, he just kind of holds court, and it's not, it's nothing like, I don't know, like selfish or conceited. It's just he's a fun guy to be around. But
It's so funny.
yeah.
We were laughing about this at last year's reunion, just how Alec he's got the 2022, 2024 reunions, and now he's got one in what? How many years is your next one?
Yeah, 2033. And it's like, I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna be so old, you know? And I'm like, man, there's gonna be guys still playing. I'm gonna show up. Like I already have a little bit of some gray in my beard, and I don't know, the pressure's on. I might have to get like a facelift or something before I go to that reunion so the guys don't. I mean, I was all already like the old guy, so
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of grandpa jokes. I mean, I still can. Chandler Stevenson sent me something the other day just randomly, and I was like, that was just so mean. Like obviously it was hilarious, and I was laughing, but I'm like, what the hell, man?
Mm.
But so that guy, yeah, I'll. That's weird to think about, but in 2033,
Well, by that
man, how
time, you
old?
might be
How old?
a
Yeah,
very seasoned broadcasting man because you are moving
maybe.
into that role. Like,
Yeah.
we kind of, we've gotten to this point in it, but like, how did you said you at the beginning of this, like, you kind of had been mapping this out for a little bit, thinking about it.
hmm
Did you always know you wanted to go into broadcasting? Because you ask my husband what he wants to do, and it's like his dad's in baseball broadcasting, and Jeff's
hmm
like, absolutely not. Like, no, thank you.
Yeah, I said I'd never be on TV.
And
I said
here we
that
are.
all throughout, and here we are.
I was shocked, and I was so happy when it got
But
announced. I texted him right
but
away. I was like,
yeah, yeah, but so when I say that I had it mapped out or I have it mapped out, I don't really have it
Well, you have
I know. I
thoughts. You
get
have.
I have thoughts. Yeah,
Mhm.
like and by that I'm like if I go back to my last year in Vegas, like going into that year, you're aware of your contract situation. I was aware of my health and I thought, this could be my last run at it. And then at the end of that year, it's like, well, I'm good if I'm done unless something interesting, piques my interest and obviously Chicago did, but then, once I played that year, that's when I kind of knew like, hey, this is it. So I guess I had a little bit of time to think about it. Um, like I mentioned, I had a relationship with Darren beforehand. He and I actually, when I was out in 2021, I got kicked in the face. Kat knows about that, but
Mm.
and I was out. I missed like 65 games. I was out from
Oh my
like November
gosh.
to March. Yeah, it
Alex
messed
ha-
my whole.
Alex
Yeah,
had some of the craziest injuries. I think in your book you'll write all
yeah,
about them.
yeah. Once I write that book,
Yeah.
no, but so Darren would always fill in. Like, I mean, I did a lot of skates by myself when the team was on the road, and Darren would always come out, and he's a goalie. So he would come out, so I would have someone to shoot on, and so we kind of got to know each other that year, and then obviously, just in as a player, and he was a broadcaster, like got to know him that way, and so we kind of developed this friendship, and then he always said he's like, whenever that day comes, I thought, like you'd be good at this. I think we'd have fun together, doing it, and I just thought like, yeah, yeah, I don't know, I really like you, Darren, but I don't really think that TV's for me. um, and then we actually sat down, was that 2 summers ago? The summer I left Vegas and kind of had, I picked his brain, talked about it. I was like, yeah, maybe we'll do a couple games here and there. And then I ended up signing in Chicago. And then, this past summer, it kind of, we kept in touch and then kind of brought it up again. And um, I guess like I'm very appreciative of the Knights organization because of my general plan that we were talking about, mapping out like this next year. My two priorities is I want to be a dad. Worked really hard to get to that point that we can get into later, but um, I want that opportunity to do that, especially the first year that I'm out, and then alluding to the face thing, like I want to get my health back. So those are my two major things, and I just didn't want to jump at the first thing in case it'd be the wrong thing. Like I just want to take my time with figuring out what's next. So um very appreciative of the Knights organization. I'm kind of in the mode of like just trying things. Like I'm gonna
Hmm.
do a dozen games. I've done four already. Maybe a few more here and there, but it was an opportunity for me to try something new, an opportunity for me to kind of stay involved in the game. I feel like it'd be pretty hard if I just retired and then all of a sudden just cut it clean, and I was very upfront with the organization too, saying like, if there's one thing that's important to me, it's like I want to reserve the right to say no because I want to do the health thing and I want to be a dad. So, and they've been really understanding of that and doing as many games as I'm going to do, like that's perfect. It truthfully, it gets me out of the house because so Emily doesn't want to kill me any more than she already does. I get to go to Vegas. My sister and brother-in-law live there. My sister just had a kid um a couple months ago, so I get to see my new nephew. I get to see some of my buddies and I get to talk hockey and like kind of stay involved. So it was kind of like a no-brainer, but I'm just in that mode where I don't want to say no to a whole lot because I want to try things, figure out what I'm good at, what I'm not good at, what I like and what I don't like, um and TV just kind of, I mean, I guess it's kind of what I'm doing now, but I wouldn't consider myself like in broadcasting yet because it's just still I'm still on tryout, like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, I'm
You're
still on a
learning.
PTO with this, yeah, and I'm still
Yeah.
learning. I'm by no means a broadcaster yet, but I have done some broadcasting,
You're a
if that makes.
broadcaster. Do you get nervous, by the way?
Yeah, I was nervous. Like the first game especially that I did, um, it was a weird day, I'll be honest, because like since I've been done, like I've alluded to, like I've had good days and bad days, and some sometimes I don't even think about it, and then other times it's like there's certain moments where it's like a reminder that like, hey, you're really done, and
Yeah.
every once in a while, like at our off-season place in Michigan, I walked into my gym for the first time, and I was just it kind of like made me sad, right? Because it's like, well, I'm still going to use this gym, but it's not going to be the same
Hmm.
anymore. Like I'm not prepping for a season. I'm not, which some of it is great because I'm like that machine, never going to use that again. Like that thing's miserable. But stuff like that. But then, so that first day, it was like it was starting a new chapter, sort of. So it was kind of a weird day where I'm like, huh, I really am done. But then I was nervous too because it was new, and so I was laughing with Darren. And I'm like, I think I'm more nervous than like right now than any game I ever played in. Like, especially in the playoffs or in the final or anything like that. But yeah, I was nervous, and you could probably tell too. And
Yeah.
apparently, the first interview, I dropped a shit, and I
Uh,
didn't even realize it. Like talking about my plan, it sounds stupid, but I have this in my notes app. I have this thing called Chapter Two, and I slowly put together this list of people that I wanted to talk to, and in various, I'll call them industries, like in hockey, outside of hockey, people that I've met, like just anytime that I've made like a big life decision, I'm like, I just want to talk to as many people as possible, get as much information as possible, and then that way I can make a decision. And there were a few people that I wanted to talk to, and one of them was, Jarrett Stoll, who does that for the Kings, and then Darren was one of them. I talked to Daryl Evans, and I just wanted to like kind of pick their brain and figure out what they liked, what they didn't like, what they found was difficult. I talked to Thomas Hickey too, um, who I lived with in the minors, and we both were young guys with the LA organization. But yeah, there was a handful of people that I wanted to talk to in broadcasting, so I talked to them, and I've talked to other people too, and I still actually am. I need to get back to that list and
well,
talk to some more
I
people.
want to see chapter two. Like, I want
yeah.
to see this. This
The
is
fact that
amazing.
Uh-huh.
I think the fact that you even have the wherewithal, like fresh out of playing, to know and to, see this, that, some guys ignore it and some guys can just shut the door on it, and then, some things fester up. I think the fact that you're hitting it on the head, you're seeing it for what it is, you're feeling the sadness of walking into your gym, or, walking maybe into a locker room and not having that same thing, like, says a lot. And we just had the Prongers on a couple weeks ago, and it just reminded me, like, the advice that he kind of led off with, of just like, he recommends that these guys take a year, and even Lauren saying, like, let them be for a year, let them navigate, let them get to the place, and then once that year's up, it's hopefully they've made a notes app that you've already,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
Well, I don't want you to think, don't be fooled that I have it like figured out, because I mean
No,
I've
certainly not,
I,
but
I I've put that together, and like you had a really interesting point there that um most guys shut the door on it and ignore it.
mhm,
I did that too.
mhm,
Like there was a bit of a hybrid. I think I had the benefit of, well, it's funny, I've reflected a little bit on it, and I would say that I'm very fortunate to have been able to go out on my terms, because I know how many how many people in hockey, but in anything in life, that they're not able to do that. And so um I would say oftentimes a lot of guys play their last game and they don't know it's their last game, right? And I know how lucky I am to have been able to do that. So I guess I had a little bit of foresight, so I don't want to give myself too much credit here that I had this
right,
list. Like I knew this was coming, so I could prep for it. But it's funny when you say that, like last year, sometimes I would talk like I was gonna still play this season. And finally, Emily, my wife, was she looked at me and she's like, "So are you done or are you not done?" I couldn't give her an answer. She's like, "Well, say it." And I was like, "No." You
Oh
know,
my
so there's
goodness.
because if I said it, then it was all of a sudden real, you know,
Mm.
like, and it was in my eyes, it was like definitive or final. So while I had this list, there was, I guess I was kind of compartmentalizing, right? But there was a big part of me that just wouldn't admit it,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So let's just say that Notes app was there, but I didn't open that app for significant
Yeah.
periods of time,
Oh my
right?
God.
So,
Is Alex an emotional guy, as you can tell? I just wanted to say, how did you not bawl your eyes out in your retirement speech? I saw you holding him back, but you were just, it was a beautiful, I sent it around to everyone. Like literally, I
Yeah.
was like, you must watch this speech.
oh, the one with Panger,
Yeah, on the
like
ice, like
in,
you're, yeah.
yeah, yeah, that one was a hard one. That was the hardest. That was the hardest interview I've ever done. I mean, I was appreciative of that moment too. I had talked to Panger. The thing was is that I really, if I really had it my way, I would have just ridden off into the sunset and not said a word. But the Blackhawks were kind of, they were kind of adamant about me saying something, and I didn't want to do it weeks ahead. Like I didn't want to make anything about me. I'm not, that's just not kind of player I was, who I am as a person. I'm like, I like verbal meme. I just want to be Homer Simpson that like disappears into that green hedge. You know, like
Yeah.
that's what I want. You know what I mean? That's what I wanted to
Mhm.
do. But
That's a
they
great
brought up
visual.
that, yeah, the Hawks brought up the good point. They're like, well, if we do this like tribute video at the end, people are going to be like, what the heck's going on here? You know,
Yeah.
like if you don't say something. So, so then that's why I was like, you know what? All right, I'll tell. And I told Panger ahead of time. And I was like, hey, tonight's my last game. Only my family knows this. And I had some buddies from college and some family that came in it, and some guys that I had played with. It was hard because it's like you want so many people. Like I would have loved for you and Ty to be there, right? But it's like, well, you're playing. So like I had a lot of buddies that were still playing that couldn't, but um other than them, no one really knew. So he teed me up, and yeah, that was hard, but
It would be wrong of us not to talk a little bit more. I'm going to go a little off script here. Just about, I feel like your wife saying, like, well, say it. Like, sounds to me from what I know from Vic, like she's just a strong, foundational piece of your career and, has been with you along the journey. Just what has she meant to you throughout it? And, I feel those words so deeply just because Jeff's at the end of his, and it's like, you don't say it, you don't talk about it, I'll let him play till the wheels fall off. I don't, I'm
Mhm.
here to do whatever I need to do. But that hits, and I don't know. I just feel like if she's saying that and what she meant to you throughout the whole journey, because I do know little bits and pieces that y'all had a journey through it all.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully I don't start crying.
Oh.
Um no, but I mean Emily's incredible. Um she's just the best. And um I wish I would have met her sooner, but I
Mm-hmm.
also am very appreciative of the timing that we did meet. Um, yeah, the corny, it's all about timing, like whatever. But it truly was. I think, she and I had met, I think I was 31 or 32, and it's like kind of got some of the bullshit out of the way of like younger dating and all that. And so it was kind of just I was just more of like a mature relationship right off the get-go, which was refreshing and just kind of easy and organic. But um I mean, I feel like I could talk about this for hours and all the things that she did to support me. But I mean, if I'm going through the bullet points, I mean, she had a career of her own. She taught third grade for 10 years. Um, she had tenure and has her master's in reading specialty, and she had a very successful teaching career of her own, and she gave that up to once we got engaged, to move to Vegas and support me and allow me to continue to play. And then um, that's no easy thing to do. Um, and being a hockey wife is not, as you guys can attest to, is not an easy thing to do because your life is wrapped up in this game, and everything that you do affects that. And and in a lot of ways it's kind of a selfish thing from a player's standpoint, which is hard because I mean I would have loved for Emily to continue teaching, and she was super passionate about it. I mean, she's unbelievable at it. She was always like the the most requested teacher in that grade, like things like that. And so for her to give that up, like I'm very, very appreciative of that. And that's an understatement too. Like I don't even know what the right word is of that. But for her to support me in that, and then you fast forward to the ups and downs of just the game itself. I mean, I know that some nights I come home after a game or an afternoon of practice. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir here, but I'm miserable, right? And then she's got to deal with that, and uh but her support system has she's been my number one, support system since, we started dating. And then you throw in like the injuries that I've gone through. I mean, she got a taste. I got stepped on and severed my radial artery and two nerves, I think like 3 months into us dating.
Yep.
Mm.
Like,
God.
yeah,
I
and
remember that like it was
I
um,
can't
yesterday.
even.
yeah, and she's like staying overnight with me in the hospital, and thank goodness it was like the Monday before Thanksgiving, so she was off school. Um, but yeah, she got a taste, and then of that pretty quickly. And I come out of surgery and it's like I'm under anesthesia still and just being you know running my mouth like an idiot, like not in a bad way, but I think I'm being funny, but I'm just being embarrassing, like
I can only
like the
imagine what you were
David after
saying.
dentist, like the David after dentist, that poor kid, like that kind of thing. Um but yeah, and then you fast, and then me getting sliced, going through COVID. I mean, moving to a new moving to a new city. Like COVID hit 2 weeks after we were both traded, right?
Yeah.
Like a super weird time. And then all of a sudden she is trying to Zoom call or Zoom teach and all that stuff. And then a new city where she's not really allowed to hang out with people and get to know people. Like, I mean, she made an incredible sacrifice for me. And I'm forever grateful for that. And then I'll call them like challenges, and she just knocked them down like
Yeah.
one by one,
Yeah.
and um I'm just like, wow, this woman is pretty incredible. And then you fast forward, I'm dealing with some of my head stuff from the slice, various injuries, contract situation, all that stuff that is involved in hockey.
Mm.
And then we throw the fertility journey that we had. And I mean, my wife, without getting into all the details, I mean, was absolutely put through the ringer
Hmm.
with multiple surgeries as well, being, you know, poked and prodded nonstop. I mean, the amount of like, there were times where like the insides of her arms were just, yeah.
Oh.
Um, but yeah, it like pales in a comparison to anything that I went through, right? Um,
Like, oh my
edit this out.
God.
No, it's beautiful. We live a beautiful life. We live blessed life in this hockey world, in this community. There are so many things and so many stories like that, that not people, they go through quietly. And outside of hockey, too, everybody goes through it quietly. And it's a beautiful thing to recognize it. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
would
it's
say
it's
you're.
like yeah, it's like we're so fortunate in so many ways. And I'm like to have the resources and things like that to be able to like go through something so incredibly difficult. But but back to Emily, like, I mean, the things that she went through and the sacrifices that she made just in her life, the sacrifices that she made physically just in order for us to have a family, like, I mean,
It's
all
amazing.
right, so I blocked a shot and I broke my foot, like, who cares? And so it's important to put that kind of thing in perspective, um but yeah, I mean, she's an incredible person, and she's always supported me all the while going through something so difficult herself. And obviously I'm going through that with her, but it's just I feel uh it's like a delicate thing, because while I went through it with her, I know that the mother in a woman bears a different or carries a different burden in that regard. So I want to be respectful of that. And there's no way that I can ever know what that's like, because I'm not a woman. And so, yeah, that's like an important, like, little thing to say. But I mean, for her to support me in my career while going through all of that herself, I mean, from like I said, a life standpoint, a physical standpoint, an emotional standpoint, a mental standpoint, like, pretty incredible. So that's why she's the best.
So
Yeah.
happy for you guys. I cannot wait to
Yeah.
meet the kiddos, and way to
Yeah.
make us cry, Alec, on
Yeah.
Sorry.
I
gosh.
think this is a first, but
It's a
whatever.
first.
Well,
It's a,
you teed me up.
I
That's on
know. I
that's on you
did.
Oh
guys.
I
god.
did, but
Yeah.
but this whole conversation has felt emotional in a beautiful way, because it just, you said it at the beginning, like hockey and sports in a way are so poetic. Like that alone is poetic. Like the fact that you are like, I just want to be a dad now, and that's where you're at, and that story goes
Mhm.
with it. Everything y'all gone through. So I appreciate you being vulnerable. I think vulnerability is what is so refreshing about you, and I know nothing about you. Now I feel like we can go hang out next time I'm in Hermosa with Kat.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like
Literally.
this,
That would be so
get the
much fun.
Michigan boys together. Let's get lighter here. What are you watching right now other than kids movies?
Nothing. Like, I don't have time. It's actually something Emily and I have talked about. Like, the last time that we sat down to actually start a show, like, I don't,
You're asleep 10 minutes in.
yeah. And I'm trying to think, like, the last thing we watched was White Lotus,
Oh,
That
maybe,
is
and that was when we were still in Chicago. I
that's
mean, granted,
recent-ish.
yeah, recent-ish. Like, when we're at the lake, it's kind of by design, but we only have one TV in the house.
hmm
And the idea is like, hey, I mean, truthfully, I think the only thing that we really watch are live sports
right.
now. I mean, we might have watched a documentary here and there this summer, but like, we don't watch a whole lot of TV. And then since we've moved back to LA, we're like kind of redoing our house. And then you throw the kids in the mix, like, we just short answer,
Nothing.
we don't watch TV.
Favorite road city?
Ooh, uh, probably Nashville. Just like the vibe of we would always stay close to Broadway. Um,
Tootsies.
you could, yeah, live music, that kind of thing. I mean, obviously going home, like, I liked going to Detroit just because I could see family and stuff. But yeah, Nashville. I mean, there's a few. The New York trip is always fun.
hmm
Um, because it's one year in New York, and playing it in the West, we'd always kind of do it around Christmas time. So New York
hmm
at Christmas time, you get the taste of the winter, and it was kind of nice that you would just like be in one spot for 4 days,
I was
5 days, which was a nice refresh. Yeah.
Ty was just on that from San Jose, so I was just there for
Yeah.
a week. Yeah.
Okay, favorite road city hotel. Getting niche here.
The Pac Rim in Vancouver is really nice.
I like that
Those are
different answer. Usually it's the
fabulous.
Ritz in Montreal that everybody says.
Oh yeah, because of the toilet.
Because of the
You probably get that
toilet.
all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing does everything short of taking you to the moon. There's so many damn buttons on that thing. Like, uh,
It's
Yeah,
so
no,
funny that that's a thing in hockey that everyone is like, oh, the Ritz Montreal.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah, it's all the toilet.
I think
That's
some
it.
guys have gotten them installed in their house, like they've because they love it so much. Anyways.
Oh yeah,
I wonder
yeah, yeah.
if the general public in Montreal know this about the Ritz Montreal.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure it's been great for Toto, right?
Yeah.
Like all the NHL guys that are building houses, they're like, I want that, you
Yeah,
know?
Toto the brand.
Until
If
you
you're
see the
listening.
price tag and you're like, I think I'm good.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'd love to know
Yeah.
how much that costs. Actually.
Oh, I think it's
Oh,
like
there.
10 gram plus.
Oh my god.
Like,
Yeah,
It's-
it's something
Jeff looked
stupid,
it up.
and but then it's also like semi. I don't want to say dangerous, but it's like all the plumbing is behind the wall. So if
Okay.
anything goes wrong with the toilet, you have to bust up drywall, and it's
Yeah.
like,
it's
I-
crazy.
okay, so I'm gonna pay 10 grand and then have to like redo my bathroom if it
Yeah.
starts leaking. Like, no thanks.
Ritz Montreal's an old building too. That's kind of impressive if you think about it. Okay, another Road City question. Favorite Road City random restaurant you found?
I don't know if I could list like one. Like it's funny when you play in the league, you end up and you play long enough, like both your husbands have. Like I'm sure they're the same way. I mean, I know Ty is, but you kind of find your spots, like your
Mhm.
little spots in each city that are your favorite. Um, uh, I guess restaurants. I really like, is it Louis Bossie's actually where you guys are at in
Yeah.
Fort Lauderdale?
Tyler was just
was
talking
really
about that the other night.
It's very-
Yeah, was a big fan of that. There's a few like coffee shops here and there, like in this isn't a coffee shop, but like Miku, a sushi restaurant in Vancouver that's close to that Pac Rim Hotel.
So
I
good.
was a big fan of that. Like going to get like Texas barbecue when you're in Dallas. There's a place called Pecan Lodge that I would try to go to and try to take guys to. Go to
probably
like
have
Coney
one.
Island when you're in Detroit. Yeah.
What's a chirp that made you LOL and sticks in your brain forever?
I believe it was when we were playing Anaheim. This was early in my career. Bobby Ryan had just signed an extension, and he got hit in front of our bench, and the bench started running their mouth, and he got laid out, and guys were giving it to him, and he obviously had just signed an extension for a lot of money, and he popped up and said, "No, it's all right. It didn't hurt that bad. I just fell on my wallet." And everyone was just like, all right, yeah, touche, tip of the cap. So that one always makes me laugh. But
That's
um
funny. That's
yeah,
really
it's
funny.
yeah, it's funny like you see I mean, and then like what do you say to that? It's like,
Okay.
no,
Yeah.
like yeah.
Who is the most famous person in your phone?
Besides Tyler Toffoli, um
Which did Tyler just walk in? Did I share
Wait.
the game?
did he really?
Oh, hey there.
Hey,
Hey.
hey, buddy, what's up, man?
You guys just finishing up?
He literally just
Oh
said
yeah,
to me.
they just asked me. They said, "Who's the most famous person in your phone?" And I said, "Well, besides Tyler Toffoli, I gotta swipe through and check it out."
That's a quick shout out.
Yeah.
All
Hi,
All
right.
right. Well,
Ty.
you enjoy your nap.
Oh yeah, it's Shuttersville.
Shuttersville.com. Log on, buddy.
See you, bro.
See you, dude.
We talk about manifesting on this podcast, and you literally
Yeah.
were like,
There we go. Yeah. There he is. I don't really know. Actually, probably the most famous. I have Eric Stone Street's number because he gave me his Dodger tickets one time, and he had to like. I don't think I've ever texted him. I don't want to bug the guy, but I think he needed to text him to me or something like that.
His favorite vacation spot.
I really like Hawaii. I mean, I know that's probably a pretty standard answer, but I've been to a couple weddings there.
"You're our third wheel
One,
there." One.
yeah, exactly.
Oh,
I
yeah,
know.
and
That's what I was.
oh my
That's what I
God,
was saying.
I
Been to a couple weddings
I
there.
didn't even
Yeah,
think
I don't
that
know.
you were teeing up our wedding. Oh my god,
Yeah,
that's so
I,
yeah,
funny.
I knew.
yeah.
I knew it.
Uh, yeah, come on now, Kat.
Sorry,
Um,
yeah.
No, I mean, I really like Hawaii. Just like the vibe is super chill. Like that's the kind of vacation that Emily and I like to go on. I mean, we're fairly active too, but and I'll do the museum thing like maybe a little bit, but I don't want to do it a whole lot. I just kind of want to relax and chill. So, I mean, Hawaii, Emily and I went on our honeymoon to Italy, really enjoyed that, but I mean, it's not like it's the easiest place to just pop over to. So, I guess being in LA and on the West Coast, like if I had like 5 or 6 days and wanted to go somewhere, I think she and I would pick there.
I'm going to wrap us up. If you could sum up your playing career in 3 words, what would they be?
Grateful. I don't know how to put it into one word, but I didn't always meet this feat, but I tried to do things the right way, and I wasn't always successful at that, and I made plenty of mistakes and all that, but that would be one of my words. Do things the right way, all one word. Um, Grateful, that. I don't know, grateful that friendships like that, or yeah, like I don't know. Try to do things the right way, and then I'm just very grateful for everything, and appreciate the friendships that I made and I still have, clearly.
I
This is a
love that.
prime example.
This was awesome. Kat alluded to this being just such a fun, easy conversation, and I can totally attest to it now. Walking
Mm.
through, somewhat of your journey and hearing more color to it, I just think you have a fantastic story. And as you're navigating all of this in the year out, I think you're doing it with such grace, and it's just such a breath of fresh air for all the guys that are kind of in that transition period. So thanks for coming on and talking with us too.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. And in terms of the grace, I have a lot of help.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we all
uh,
do.
uh,
We all need it.
they know who they are. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that was amazing. I did not expect to feel that emotional. It's funny because all the people that we know in common with him talk about the emotion around him and just the beautiful stories around him and his family. But I didn't know what that meant until we spoke with him, and I just had a lump in my throat the whole time. In
Leave
the
it to Alec to make us tear up multiple times. If you watch this on YouTube, you will see just
I was
he
kind of ugly girl crying.
yeah,
Like,
he is just I have known Alec since prior to Ty, So
Mhm.
I've known him. I actually met Ty with Alec when they came to a game.
yeah.
So it's so funny, but he's just when I say that he is just one of the most like thoughtful people, I guess.
Yeah.
And in this
Humble, down to earth.
yeah.
Like, he just humanized the whole thing, the whole hockey player shtick.
You know what's even crazier too? So he had all those injuries in LA, like the craziest injuries. And when he was injured and he'd obviously stay home and the guys would go on the road, I used to call him Mr. Fix It because if something happened at our house and like I needed help, like Alec would come over and like one time he like fixed like our cable or like TV, whatever, you know what I mean? He is just that guy that I would call. So unfortunately when he was injured, he was home, but like he was still the most helpful human in the
Yeah.
entire world.
Well,
So you kind of see the vibe that he gives.
yeah, the whole vibe, and just, he's just so cerebral and how he is navigating this post hockey chapter, as he called it. I just think it's so cool, and he's going to be, whether he knows it or not and whether he'll accept it or not, like, he will be a resource for so many people just based on his honesty and vulnerability alone. I am grateful. He said, he summed up his career in those kind of 3 phrases. I feel grateful for that conversation just because I feel like it's going to open up so much more with everything he had to give. And I guess you could say we're entering our Joe Rogan era by having a, depth, longer conversation like that. But I'm here for it, and I hope everybody loved it as much as we loved walking through it with him.
I mean, we
And
could talk for hours and hours and hours with Alec. He just
hours. It just, anyways, did not really think that kind of emotion would come up in that particular conversation, but it went there, and yeah, that's never offside on a vulnerable note. And just I hope everybody enjoyed that conversation, and I hope you're enjoying the season so far, because we have just done some different types of, conversations and interviews, and we just are really trying to give everybody different outlooks and insights, I guess, into this crazy, awesome world that we live in. So
crazy. I actually got to text Alec after this too, because tomorrow is Ty's 900th game. So I waited until last night getting played to get to being able to actually like order stuff and superstitious. You don't want to order anything before. So now that we're
knocking.
Oh yeah, I'm knocking on my head. Yeah. But now I'm off to go order some. It's kind of funny. I don't even know if Ty knows that I know that tomorrow would be my
That's so
I
cute.
actually don't think he knows that I would know this, because he thinks that I'm like such a fair weather fan or whatever.
You're in it.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go plan some stuff. So I'm gonna actually ask Alec, of all people, for ideas, because Alec is the most thoughtful teammate that Ty's ever had. So
that's the person to ask. So
yep.
Thanks for listening. It's we've kept you this long. Go listen to other episodes if you've missed this season. Follow the Instagram.
Shout out Michael Misa last week on
our
pod
for missing that. I guess we gave him a little bit of good luck juju to get that first one under his belt.
Yep, he got his first goal, and I've never been more proud and relieved after him being on our podcast.
I know.
So.
Yeah, totally. So go, listen to last week's episode with him. We had such a fun time, chatting with him and just having so much fun. And follow along. Yeah, all the things. And that's a wrap.
See you next week.
Yeah.